What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and I want to start off by saying I've been lied to. My wife told me that it was going to be high 60s today, and I dressed accordingly. And like a fool, I didn't check the weather. So that's on me. But it's not in the high 60s. Which brings us to, how are you doing today, Dave? Are you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
Spicy, because we didn't even talk about what the intro is going to have in this video, but we are talking about a massive mistake. Not the mistake of not dressing accordingly, but a massive mistake that I think beginners make all the time. And this was something that got pointed out to me by my brother when we were playing at Chattahoochee Point Disc Golf Course in Georgia. I want to say it was like 3 years ago. 3.5 years ago. I mean, it was early on. I don't even know if I was making YouTube content at this point. He pointed it out and I thought, wow, that is genius. And recently, my friend Pete, who runs OG Disc Golfer, OG Pete Collins over there on YouTube as well, and got to come with me to the Northeast Disc Golf Expo, which, by the way, he has a phenomenal video talking about that I'll put the card to right here. But you can also check it out on his channel. Kind of talking about first experience with the expo. It's really, really fantastic. Pete's the man. Check it out. But Pete put out a video where he used a rangefinder actually at this course, kind of guesstimating distances and things like that. And that is where I think that there is a common mistake that beginners make all the time when it comes to distance checking. So we want to talk about that mistake, how you overcome that mistake. But thankfully, rather than just talking about it, we are actually in Gateway Week. Gateway Disc Sports has sent me a whole box of discs, and so we're making 2 videos this week. This week we're going to talk about some molds they have that don't get as much love as the Wizard does, and then we're going to talk about the Wizard on Thursday, doing a whole video talking about the Wizard and the plastics that are available. So get excited about that, because we'll also talk about which one I've landed on having in my bag at the moment. So what do we have? We have 7 discs coming from them. We have the, I guess we had 8 because they also sent us Wizards, but we have the Realm in the NXT plastic, really, really pretty. The War Spear 3302 thumb track alternative. I think they also have the Devil Hawk as a overstable alternative. I may have to see how this one flies. The Shaman, a understable throwing putter, and feels like some hemp mixed into this, like a diamond hemp. We have a new mold that's a prototype. This is the Acacia. Not sure if it is from AGL. I was talking to the Birdie fam about this, but we have the Acacia. We have the Mercury, which is a first run. Also have to assume this is a prototype. This one has flight numbers on it. It's from ITC Discs. 23-10. Next we have the Warlock in a nylon super glow plastic. And last but not least, we have a Lunar Voodoo. So let's dive into hole 1 and set up our range. We are playing 7 holes. We're gonna throw all of them off the tee once, but I do have a Birdie fan member who just joined Team Gateway actually, and he saw this Voodoo in the pack and he was like, yo, Robbie, we gotta have a putter battle, you with your Wizards versus me with the Voodoo. So I'm gonna see, J-Mo, if this lives up to the stuff. I'm gonna be putting with the Voodoo all day today, and we're playing 7 holes. We're playing all shorts. Now, granted, I only have putters in a Realm. If I don't shoot 3 under par, this one goes to J-Mo. And if I do shoot 3 under par, I will give it to another Birdie fan member. We're gonna start off with the Mercury 23-10, and we are going to that silver basket off to the left. It says it's 220 feet, but it plays uphill the whole time. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this Mercury. Now this brings us to the distance issue, which I will show you right off the bat and then kind of highlight as we walk through and discuss. One of the biggest issues that people make, especially beginners, when they're picking and throwing, is that they are so afraid of throwing too far. We often make a moment that it's like we never want to go past the basket because we've almost played too much disc golf. So because of that, we choose the wrong discs, the wrong setups, and we underestimate everything, and it leaves us in some tricky scenarios. Okay. That's good for J-Mo. Had some turn to it. I mean, we hit it hard. So while we did turn it over, I am totally content with that. I really like how this felt in my hand. This like Whatever plastic blend this doesn't feel like their traditional diamond plastic. I want to putt this, but I know if I putt it, I've got a pretty low chance of getting there. So we're gonna try to throw it, see what the Voodoo does on like a nose up floater approach. It's straight. It's straight, but I'm past the basket, which is gonna highlight something that if there is no danger behind the basket, I would always rather be long of the basket than short of the basket. And here's why. So we wanted to throw this in here. If I landed short and I threw it short and I landed right around here, I never had the chance of getting the 2 because I didn't give it the height, nor did I give it the power to get all the way here. By being long of the basket, now, did it ever have a chance of going in? No, probably not, because let's be real, I was like wide right the whole time. But the power wise, there was enough power that if we would have lined the line up right, it absolutely had enough gusto to actually get to the basket, which is a throwing capability. I'm gonna go scenario when I most often talk to AMs and I see AMs play, that happens, yeah, a lot. The Acacia has been described to me as a Nova, but with a bead on the bottom of it. Very point and shoot, throw it right at the target. So the scenario that we referred to on the last hole is how often are people like, oh yeah, okay, I got this, I'm throwing around the corner, here we go, I gotta throw it like 240 feet. Yeah, I think I can get a putter there. And so then they grab it and they throw it and they get up there and they're like, oh, I'm 40 short. I feel like I so rarely in disc golf hear AMs talking about a hole, talking about a shot, and they walk up and that 40 short is so rarely like, oh man, it's crazy, I'm like 40 long. And part of this comes from we don't necessarily have the distance, especially when you're learning the game. You don't have the distance to throw super far past the basket, so you don't end up far past a lot of baskets. If you're only throwing 250, then you're walking up to the C position here at 272, and it's uphill to that 272. So you don't stand a chance of getting there. And that's okay, because you're not gonna end up long in the basket. These are not the scenarios I'm talking about. A lot of the times, this comes up on approaches or shorter shots and things like that. And that's where my brother called me out on it, is we stepped up, it was like a 400-foot par 3, and at the time, neither of us were really throwing anything farther than like 310, 320. So we got up there, and I went to go throw my approach shot, and I just grabbed a putter. And I had thrown a bad one, so I had like 120 into the basket. So I went to grab a putter, and my brother was like, you should throw a mid. We got headwind coming at us, try to push it past the basket. And I was like, I don't know. I think I can get there with the putter. So I threw the putter anyways, and what ended up happening, I threw the putter into the headwind, got knocked down, all that, and I ended up like 30 short. And that's when he pointed out, how many times do you ever feel like you actually end up short of the bat or long of the basket? I'm not gonna lie to you guys, that there, I let that, there's a lot of wind out here, and I let that wind really get a hold of me. The shaman shot. It was a shaman shot. Thankfully, we're not in like too much of a hurt right now. That Voodoo has a little depth to it, which is nice, but because it has the depth, I'm holding on to it too far, because this might be controversial to some, but even on those touch up shots like that, I actually throw with a power grip. I don't throw a fan grip or anything like that. Now we talk about going long of the basket, and this is a hole where if I was trying to throw that turnover and I wasn't such a sissy throwing the Acacia, this is one that going long of the basket actually has a little bit of danger, because on that turnover line that I was trying to throw, it all slopes really downhill back here. I'm not saying that this hole, we should aim to throw long of the basket every time, is like tried and true, take it to the bank, cash it. You've got to make sure that you're doing that, just because sometimes long of the basket is bad. But lots of times it's like we feel so much more comfortable aiming short of the basket and letting it slide up. And this has often come from, I've told people, I think I've even said in a video, like if you aim at the basket and you're trying to hit the basket and you miss the basket, the ground action is going to put you 20 to 30 feet past. So the adjustment that people end up making is they aim 20 to 30 feet short and try to slide up to the basket. Whereas I think we should maybe find a nice middle ground. Rather than aiming 20 to 30 feet short, aim 10 to 15 feet short. So let's take this hole for example, 293 feet, plays a little downhill. Here, I have a ton of putters. I've thought about going the Warlock here, but it's like at 291 feet, I just don't know that I'm gonna be able to throw, and once again, because we're playing disc golf, and you guys know how this feels, every hole is a headwind. No matter which way you're actually playing, if we turn around and play another hole this way right now and went that way, by the time that I move the camera around, we'd be thrown into a headwind. So 291 feet with a putter, while possible, into a headwind feels a little tough. So we're gonna step up to the realm here. If I'm throwing distance drivers, 350 to 380, 291 feet, it feels like overkill to throw this disc. If I go short, I also, just like we assessed that danger can be long of the basket, looking at short here, short has water in the ditch the whole time. If I go long, it's open back there, and as long as I don't go too long and end up in the sidewalk or the road back there, which I really hope is not coming into play, I should be able to take an easy 3 at worst. Nope. Okay. Hitting the power that we want, but we're back to grip lock city with the new little change that we just talked about this morning before coming to film this video. And I think it's because I'm not trusting myself to lean backwards. Just gonna throw it at that tree on the right and let it cook over. Skip up next to the basket. And there we go. We're long of the basket. We didn't really give that a chance to go in because with a distance driver, tough part about when I thought about making this video was like, man, there are so many circumstances that could come up where you're like, oh, Robbie, this is actually really bad advice. Can't believe Mr. YouTube man is trying to misguide me over here. But I do think that thinking about throwing long of the basket actually helps us in 2 specific scenarios. First scenario that this helps us in is confidence. How often do people end up leaving putts short of the basket because they have no confidence in the power that they're giving to the shot, and so they leave it short and they jasper it, whack, right into the cage. If we don't have confidence in our putt, or we don't have confidence in our game, it allows us to then try to adjust accordingly. And because of that, we put more pressure on the other shots. I have confidence in my putting, and so leaving myself a little longer look on the backside is okay. And I know that people are watching this saying, well, I'm glad you have confidence in your putting, because I certainly don't. But the only way that you're ever gonna find that confidence is putting yourself in scenarios to become better at it. I would never get better at forehands if every single time that I walked up to a forehand shot, I just thought, well, I throw a pretty decent backhand turnover, so I guess I'll just throw that instead. If I just lay it up short every time and let it skip up right to the basket, that's great. If these are all the putts that I ever have, that's gonna be awesome for scoring purposes, but that's not going to be the reality of disc golf, and I'm never gonna feel better about those longer comebackers if I never give myself the chance to even attempt that. All right, so this is where J-Mo's looking at that lunar voodoo, and he's telling himself, it could be pretty nice. Might as well go ahead and write my name on it. We're at even through 4 holes, or through 3 holes, and we gotta get to 3 down. So that means of these next 4 holes, we're gonna have to birdie at least 3 of them in order for that to not go to J-Mo. 180 feet, 192 feet, 192 feet uphill the whole way, plays like 240, 250. We're gonna go with the Warlock because of the disc that I have left. This has the most glide and still has a little stability. We're gonna try to pop it up there and let it fade back. We missed the Mando. Congratulations, J-Mo. It's gonna be real tough for this not to go to you. Literally, if we miss this putt, we go to 1 over par. So we would have to ace one of them and birdie the other 2. I really thought that was going in. Scenario 2 that I think thinking about throwing farther or going farther helps is most often a lot of people, even if you aren't a rangefinder user on the course, it's allowing us to take that skill out of the game of looking at a basket and being like, oh, I'm out 150 feet away, I'm 200 feet away. Knowing the distance to the basket doesn't matter if I don't know how far my discs go. So that's a challenge that we have. I love throwing new discs. I love getting out here and getting to try stuff. So if companies want to send stuff for us to try, fantastic. We can use it in talking points like this. Grateful to Gateway for Gateway Week that we're having, but I don't know how the discs fly, and I also don't know how far they fly. So making adjustments on range is something that's very tough. But if you hand me my bag, I know how far I throw each of the 3 pigs that are in my bag. So when I'm stepping up to a shot, if I have a rangefinder to know the distance, I know, okay, That's about how far I need to throw it. So often why I think people end up throwing short is because they truly have no idea how far the discs they throw actually go. So if you were playing tournaments and someone were to ask me like, what's the best thing I can do to capitalize or score in a tournament? I would tell you, head to a field with your bag and a notepad and throw all of your discs on 3 very different lines. Throw them on pure hyzers, throw them flat, and throw them on pure anhyzers, and see what are the distances, what are the shot shape potentials that I have. But realistically, the big thing here is what are the distances that I have. So when you're stepping up to a hole, that 240-foot example we talked about earlier, man, I'm throwing 240 feet. And let's say Philip is stepping up and he's like 240 feet. Normally, I'd like an entropy for that shape, but my entropy is not going to get there. So I think I'm going to have to step up to the hex and I'm going to have to throw the hex. If he doesn't know that his entropy goes less than 240 feet, he just looks at the shape and says, oh, that's an entropy. And now he's short of the basket and he's left himself a tough putt, which is going to make it really hard to score. A little bit of a tailwind here should make it a little more overstable. I mean, I don't want to like yam on this thing, but I also don't want to go soft. Hopefully I can throw it straight. 0-2 makes me think like rhino numbers. No, she's stable. That's wet. That's nice. That actually felt really good out of my hands. I might throw that again on the next hole just to like feel it out because we're putting with the Warlock, or we're putting with the Voodoo, so I guess we don't really need to throw it. Yep. 2 4s. So we are 2 over par with 2 holes to play. Even if we ace both of them, we're going to be at 2 under par. So congratulations, JMO. Get excited, dude. We just said, knowing your distances, I learned this disc, saw that it's a little more overstable. So I'm going to give it a chance, give it some height, and try to crash it into this basket here. 191 feet sitting on a hill. Really, aces are all that matter at this point. So let's see what we can do. It was a nice line. I think it ended up a little short. Bank. Hey, we got a birdie there. That's cool. First one of the video. Shaman, close things out. We gotta go up and over. I mean, it's basically, I feel like if we miss it, it's just gonna like sail and roll. Thank you to Mason and the Gateway team for sending out these discs. Gateway's piquing my interest a lot this year. Very excited for it. 166 feet, big turnover. And we're super short. All right, war spear time. Here we go. Whew, that would have been nasty. All right, my last putt with this Lunar Voodoo. Yep, you heard it here first, everybody. Wizards are better. That was a Shaman, but Wizards are better. All right, quick review of the disc, because you know they sent the discs and we got to talk about them. The Acacia, didn't really give a good flight of it. I just didn't really give the Acacia a chance, so not a fair comparison here. The Realm, this plastic feels really good. I like this plastic a lot. I will say, didn't really give her a chance to fly and get a good review. Warlock surprised me a lot. For a beadless throwing option, has a good amount of stability to it, and this nylon plastic feels really good. Mercury really surprised me. Easy turnover. This one I could definitely see giving away to a beginner and letting them fall in love with it. Shaman, just really, really good frisbee. Shaman's really great. I think a lot of people are talking, especially the foundation guys are talking about the Shaman a lot more now that it's there. I think it's sold as a super flippy disc, but you could see even there, like huge Annie, it still has time to kind of pan out, especially if you're a nose up thrower. Voodoo, I'll go ahead and start the narrative against JMO. Trash. I'm just kidding. Had a good amount of glide to it. Just not necessarily my vibe. Sometimes you hold a putter and it's just not for you. And the Voodoo is really great, I'm sure. Just not for me. The one that surprised me the most though, and definitely makes me interested in the Devil Hawk War Spear. As a 2302 or a 3302, I would not have said this was gonna be a super overstable disc, but very intriguing. And I think that I got an email from Gateway this week that they're releasing NXT War Spears, which is this plastic. So I may have to check that out because that's a premium plastic option that feels really good. That's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in, and truly, I don't want this to be like a, oh man, I'm so bad, I should be ashamed of my distance control and things like that. It's just a problem, like I said, that I love spending time with amateur cards and playing with amateur cards, because not only do I get to learn stuff, learn how to teach better, but also I get to see problems that amateur players are experiencing so that we can address them to try to help you improve, because maybe you're experiencing this, but you don't play a lot of tournaments or you're not around a lot of other players, so you don't get the chance to have the feedback on how you can improve, how you could score. So it's definitely something that learning that flick of the wrist upshot, learning how to throw past the basket, is going to give you more opportunities to score, going to give you more birdies, things like that, and it's going to build up a confidence like we talked about that you just may not have had before. So I hope this is helpful. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know. If you're interested in the gateway, let me know and I'll be able to answer hopefully any questions about it, because I know a lot of these are like prototype molds, so I can answer questions for you in the chat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're gonna leave you with the birdie.